that's going on. But so we're here at the top of the hour, so we're going to get started up now that we got the tech stuff out of the way. That's what happens here. We tend to deal with that on a nightly basis, but we try to move forward, right, Craig?
Right.
All right. So welcome to another edition of Think with a Drink. This is the weekly webinar series brought to you by the Aries Foundation for Financial Education. You know, tonight's episode we are doing is investing in a 401k a good idea, and it's a dark screen in the background because I feel this is like getting pulled over to the dark side, right? You know, it's like it almost feels like heresy to me, like to be talking against the 401k. I've been doing this for so long, but we're going to go through a little bit of the ins and outs with the 401k and why it may not be all that it's made out to be in the grand scheme of everything. I got that one, Craig, so that's okay. So real quick with the checklist here, just know the event is being recorded. All that's being shown, though, is what you see on the screen. So your image, your name, none of that stuff is ever going to appear. There is a chat box, so if you do have questions, please just type them into the chat box. Keep the microphones muted. And my co-pilot, who I'll introduce in a second, will be answering or bringing questions up as we go motoring along here with this. So your pilots for tonight's journey, my name is Tom Alessi. I am the president of the Aries Foundation for Financial Education. I have been in financial services for more than 23 years now. I'm an investment advisor. That means I act as a fiduciary whenever giving guidance and advice to any of my clients. I want to bring my vice president, Craig. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Craig Richardson, the vice president of the Aries Foundation. I've been doing this over 17 years, like closer to 18 now. And I specialize in working with families and small businesses to help them reach their financial goals and have a better relationship with their money.
See, that's Craig's way of telling me I should update his screen and make it 18 years instead of 17 years. That's a nice way of doing that. But
I like it better when it was 17 years.
Craig will be chiming in as we go along. And like I said, if you do have questions, drop them in the chat box. He's here to make sure that those get answered. Told you that Think with a Drink is brought to you by the Aries Foundation for Financial Education. You can visit us at www.ariesfoundation.org. But the mission behind Aries is trying to help everyone have a better relationship with their money. Because whether you realize it or not, you are in a relationship with your money. And just like every other personal relationship that you might have, we tend to have those behaviors and emotional triggers and things that cause us to act really irrationally sometimes when it comes to dealing with our money. All Craig and I try to do, and the whole reason behind Aries is for financial literacy, financial wellness, trying to help everyone take some of that emotion out of dealing with their finances. Disclosures, I'm not going to go into the disclosures. Just know we're a nonprofit organization. We do this purely for educational and informational reasons. We always suggest that if you ever have questions of a legal, tax, or financial, that you seek out the help of a professional. Just know we share these. They're on our website. They're on our YouTube channel. All we ask is that if you're going to share them, you do it in an educational manner. Wow, that brings us to the fun. That was a lot of talking on my part there. So that brings us to the fun part. We call this Think with a Drink because we know that some of this information gets a little bit not as fun as maybe everybody wants it to be or should be. So what we try to do is make it very casual, very relaxed. And we can't think of a better way to do that than if we don't have something cold to sip on while we're doing it. Tonight, I'm going to be drinking Copper Legend. This is from our friends over at Jack's Abbey's. Last week I was drinking Shipping Out of Boston, and I figure if it ain't broke, you know, why try to fix it? So I'll stick with Jack's Abbey. And this is a Marzen, which is that Oktoberfest style beer, you know, very, very coppery colored, light foamy head. You know, it's great for fest season. And let's face it, we're going into, you know, the week of St. Patrick's Day. So this sort of brings us from that point. Craig, what are you drinking tonight?
I'll tell you that, but I got a note from the audience that the volume needs to go up a little bit, and we're having another issue with the Zoom volume.
There we go. Thank you. That's it. You know.
So while you fix that, I'll talk about that. In fact, I'm drinking a holiday porter from Sam Adams because I want to try to get rid of my holiday stuff before the spring comes. So you
can get all the light beer instead.
Exactly.
Hopefully that's better. Thank you, audience, for that and letting me know. So as I said, that's the Zoom does that to me every now and then, just switches my volume controls without my doing it or out my knowing. So I am going to say Skoll.
Oh,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
mhm.
All right, so the agenda that we're going to go through with this, and really it's a quick history of the 401k, and I will bring this in just because it is in the great grand scheme of everything, it hasn't been around all that long. Why you would enroll in one, and some of the positive points and some of the more, better attributes of a 401k retirement plan. The reasons behind rethinking this and why it might be something that we're hesitant about or be thinking maybe there's a better way. What are those other strategies that we could do, and ways to overcome money stress? That was a part of what we do here. All right, so understand that the 401k has been around. I mean, the legislation went into God bless. Wow, I'm struggling tonight. 1978. There we go. So
What was that you took?
yeah, so originally the law went into effect in 1978, but actually the first plans didn't arrive until it was 1/1/1980 when that went into place. So think about that. 1/1/1980. That's not that long ago, right?
40 years, right?
40 yeah, 40 years ago, right? So, I mean, we're talking about something that for a generation now has been raised to be under the belief that this is the only way to save for retirement. Whereas before 1980, the 401k didn't exist. That was the tax code that could put into place. That's what happened at that time. So it's, well, hey, in 1980, it was like this new thing, like, hey, you as an employee, you can contribute to this thing over here. But, most companies had corporate pension plans. And what happened is they realized, well, wait a minute, we as the corporation, we don't have to bear that burden anymore. We can put that off onto the worker now, let them have that. And okay, let's do that instead. And the transition has gone from, back in 1975, there was probably about, maybe 40 million people in retirement savings type of thing. And, 3/4 of them were in a pension plan. Fast forward to 2015 and, there's 100 million people sitting in retirement accounts. And the vast majority of them, 75% of them, are in 401k defined contribution plans, i.e. 401k, 403b, something that the employer is sponsoring, but the employee is bearing all of that burden, right, Craig?
Absolutely. And that's why you've got to be a little bit more diligent about making sure you're on top of your retirement plan. And like I said, well, the ins and outs of the 401k and what that means for you, because you're not going to get that pension, not like in the old days. So
that's right. But let's talk about, okay, why have the 401k, right? So let's face it. The reason that it's out there is because it is very easy, right? It's fairly simple to enroll through your employer. In today's world, everything is online. You can almost do it through your phone nowadays. I got a couple of providers that we can do it with your phone, and you can just sign up. You don't even need paper anymore, which is great, right? It becomes, for some people, like a forced savings account. If you are not a good saver, well, okay, this is obviously a way to force yourself to be saving money because it's coming out of your paycheck before it gets to your bank before you can spend it. So that's a positive thing with that, right? If you have an employer that does a match, right? There's another thing that says, okay, hey, there we go. We've got free money coming in, and we'll talk about that free money thing in a little bit and why that's sort of a myth with all of that. You get a tax deduction. This money's going in and it's going in pre-tax, right? So that comes off my tax bill now. We'll talk about that too, because eventually you're going to pay that freight. And yes, it grows in value, right? That's the whole idea, is that it's going to compound, it's going to grow, it's going to accumulate. That's the idea behind it. However, that's another part of this. It grows, but you can't touch it until you're 59 and a half. So that's money that's there, but you really can't get at it. Anything to add to that, Craig?
I don't know, because is that good or bad? Should I or shouldn't I be? I guess that's why we still got to go forward, right?
Right. Well, so that's just so that's sort of the reason why you would. So let's talk about the employer match, right? Because that's everybody, I'm a big proponent of saying it's free money, right? It's free money. Well, the reality of that is that companies that match, right? It's companies that don't match actually pay a higher salary than companies that have a match. And that comes out of the Center for Retirement Research, right? They basically say that, it's for every dollar that a company matches, they pay 99 cents less in salary.
They're actually based out of Cambridge, aren't they?
The Center for Retirement Research. They're here in Massachusetts, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those, okay, I'm getting the match, but is that really costing me in my current situation? And, there's a trade-off there. So just understand, there's always going to be a trade-off. Everything is happening for a reason.
Right, but you don't have a choice on whether the employer gives a match or not. I mean, unless you're looking specifically to work somewhere where they do give a match.
Right.
So you just stuck with whatever plan that they have available at that time.
Correct. But it's usually, but for a lot of people, it's like, oh, look, I'm getting this match from my employer. Like it's this wonderful thing without realizing that maybe the company down the street's paying 20 grand more in annual salary that you could be doing something with.
I guess that's true. But then you may not put it away, you might just spend it. So
Yeah, that's true. All right, so then you have this vesting schedule that goes along with the employer match, right? Now, the vesting schedule generally is selected by your employer. However, it's dictated by the Department of Labor, and that is basically 0, 3 years, or 6 years. Most employers choose a 6-year graded schedule. All that says is that in the first year, if you leave any of the money that they contributed, you get 0. And then 1 to 2 years is 20, 2 to 3, 40, 60, 80, out to 100, out over the 6-year graded scale. This is a great deal for them because the average time, what do you think? Take a guess, Craig. What is the average time a worker spends at a company now?
5 years.
Huh?
3.5 years.
You're close. You're close. You're a little under, so you didn't go over. So that's a good thing in terms of what is that? The Price is Right, right?
Yeah, right.
Close on the mountain over.
That fall off the edge, right?
It's 4 to 4.3 years.
Okay.
That the average person spends. So if you do that out, it's a 6-year grade. That means you're not getting all of that money that the company's been contributing on your behalf. So
a little bit like a not golden handcuffs, but kind of sort of a reason to stay, so you can get your vesting, right?
Correct. Right.
Of course, it always rolls forward too, doesn't it?
Excuse me?
It continues to roll forward on every new dollar, doesn't it? Most vesting schedules.
So a vesting schedule just starts from day one. So once you hit the 6 years, that's it. You're great. You're in. It doesn't matter after that.
Oh, so then all the money at that point is yours.
All the money at that point is yours. That's why it's one of those conversations about looking at what that schedule is and whether you're not. But that's part of the hook there. Like you said, hey, wait, I'm getting this free money, but well, technically, I'm not really getting this free money because I'm going to leave some of it behind.
What happens to the money I leave behind?
So the employer can do several things with it. That's up to them, as the plan dictates. They can use it to cover the cost of administration, plan expenses. So just use that extra money and pay for whatever those third-party administration costs, actuarial fees, to run the plan. They can do that. They can distribute it to everybody else, make it like a general pool and say, we're going to put everything back in. Or they can use it as a forfeiture account to say if anything ever does come up, we can then tap into it and bring it back out.
That would mean you want to harass everybody who's right about to be vested, right?
It's really just come down on them really hard.
Get out. I want your funds.
Yes. All right. So, this question comes up for us all the time about investing inside a 401k plan. But this is where we're sort of flipping the script and say the problem with the investments inside the 401k plan is the investments inside a 401k plan are very, very limited. They're generally meant to appeal to a mass audience of, let's call it, less than truly savvy investors, So generally what you have are very large vanilla mutual funds. In some cases, you actually may get an exchange traded fund in there, but it's usually like the S&P 500 type of thing. And nothing really dramatic and nothing really, you can't do too much else with that. It is just the base of these mutual funds that are available to you. Occasionally a plan will have access to be able to open and do a separate brokerage type account, but that's a liability on the company. So a lot of times they won't do that at all.
Isn't that part of the reason why they kind of limit the offering? Because they do have a fiduciary responsibility to your employees?
Exactly. And that is part of it. They're to use the handcuff reference, they are handcuffed by that because they have to do like a prudent manual. They have to do something that's in everybody's best interest. That's why it's set up that way. Now, what you have inside there are what are called target date funds. And the target date fund is this, this has been around, this even less than the 401k. The target date didn't come into existence until the early 2000s, and really because of 529 accounts. The idea of the target date fund is that you are electing a date out into the future closest to your age 65. That's the date that is going to be the determination factor of the management of this particular fund. It does what is known as a glide path. It starts out very, very aggressive and then slowly out over time starts to get more conservative. But the reality is that time slot, by the time you get to the year of the target, let's say it's the 2045 fund to be as an example, that 2045 fund at 2045 is really about a 60-40, 55-45 equities to bond mix. It's a moderate blend at that point. It's not, you're retiring, it's not conservative. It takes another 10, depending on who the investment manager is, out to 15 years after that before it'll become a conservative investment.
Yeah, but I guess that's okay because most people are going to spend 30 years in retirement. So
that's the idea behind it. So if you do it out though, if you really look at them, I mean, the 2050 is the 2055 is the 2060 fund. They're all the same at this point. There's no real difference right now. But when you get nearer to, but that's one of the conversations, Craig, when you're retiring, then the conversation gets into, well, does it make sense to me to be in a moderate exposure here or have 60% of my portfolio in equities at this point? Like right now, you would not be fun right now.
Well, if you're retiring, that's probably when you'll be looking, do I want to keep it in my 401k plan or do I want to move it into my own individual retirement account? And then you may,
which is then the argument of, well, I'd be better served someplace else because I have more at my access. I have more I can invest in. There's more I can spread and do asset allocation and diversification with.
Right, but you can't usually, unless they have a rule where once you get 59 and a half, you can't pull your money out of your 401k prior to termination or 59 and a half to move it into your own funds and manage it yourself. So
or death.
Well, then you don't need to manage much. You're dead.
Then you don't have to worry about it. See, that's why we have Think with a Drink. We have all those bright and cheery conversations. All right, so let's go to the big one, and this is probably the biggest of the myths of them all, right? Let's face it, nothing is certain except for death and taxes. So taxes in retirement, what's that myth, Craig, that everybody always says, like, I'm going to stop working, so I'm going to pay less in taxes in my retirement.
I thought that was a hard fact.
No. Yeah.
No. No.
Yeah. So here's the thing with that. Let's do it because we can only take where we are today, right? So that's what we're dealing with right now. So the money that you're putting in now, it's pre-tax. When you take it out in retirement, you're going to pay taxes on it. Once you get past 59 and a half, there's no penalty, but it will be ordinary income tax. The government just borrowed trillions of dollars for the stimulus package. That money's coming due, and it's going to be on the next generation who gets up here, sort of the end of the boomers as they go into retirement, and the generation just behind them is going to be footing the bill for that. And you basically, by putting all of this money away, you are leaving yourself exposed to whatever that tax situation becomes. It's not like you can just change it all of a sudden. It's like this money sitting there and it's all pre-tax. The minute the government makes a tax rule change, guess what? You're stuck with that. There's no way around it.
Well, I mean, you're stuck with that in any event. Like you said, all you can do is talk about what the tax rules are right now. And right now, you put money in pre-tax and it comes out, pre-tax, and you have to pay taxes on the way out. What those tax rates are could be anything 15 years from now, just like you said, depending on what the needs are.
Right. But does anybody think they're really going to be lower?
Probably not.
Right.
We're in the lowest tax rate environment we've been in a long, long time. So
exactly. So it's one of those factors, but the reason it becomes even more of a consideration, excuse me, is that the tax, whatever you generate as far as income is concerned, and that's taxation that you're paying on those distributions out of a retirement account or an IRA, then can tax your Social Security benefit. So it becomes essentially a double taxation. I've got my Social Security benefit, but if I earn more than $25,000 as an individual, and that's, again, money that I might be pulling out of my retirement account, it's going to trigger a tax of up to 50%. It will start at 50%, sorry, not up to. It's at, starts at 50% of your Social Security monthly benefit. Whatever that number is, 50% of it will be taxed at your ordinary income tax rate. If you go over $34,000, sorry, Craig, let me finish this. Well, if you go over $34,000, that number goes up to 85% of that Social Security benefit is going to get taxed.
So if I'm making $2,000 a month of Social Security income, then and I hit 25,000 in income in addition to that, then I'm going to pay tax at my ordinary income rate on that $1,000 of it.
Correct. Or $12,000 on the year, you will be paying ordinary income tax on.
And if I make more than 35,000, then I'm going to be paying tax on, 1,700 of it. So only 300 of it won't be taxed.
Right.
Wow. Wow.
Right. And now here comes the fun part, because that's just one portion of it with the tax situation. Because then that tax, that Social Security amount that got taxed gets added on top of whatever that income was that you generated. And then we add on any dividends, capital gains, and other things. And oh, by the way, if we get to a certain level, and again, the year we're playing in, 2022, more than 85,000, I'm going to trigger a surcharge on your Medicare premium. Guess what that comes out of?
Social Security?
Your Social Security.
Because they get their pay, they take it first before you get it? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's what happens. It's just the increase to the amount. It's 23%, which right now the monthly bill for Medicare is $172. So
that's about $35.
Add another 35 on. That's the surcharge. That $35 that's coming out of that. Now we taxed your Social Security, and oh, by the way, I'm taking an extra 35 just for that surcharge on Medicare.
An extra $400 a year for the surcharge. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's the lowest one. They go up from there.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have this, you have to take the money out, right? So we understand this is pre-tax money. The government hasn't gotten to it. They haven't been able to access it. The government wants their money, right? So they put this thing in place. It's called a required minimum distribution. Old law prior to 2020 said, hey, if you turn 70 and a half, you haven't taken the money out, you have to start taking it out in the year that you turn 6 months after, 70 and a half, 6 months after 70, you have to start taking distributions out of your retirement accounts. 2020, the Secure Act, they changed that. It's now 72. But at 72, if you haven't started taking the money out, you have to take it out. And they'll give you a formula and tell you this is how much you have to take out just for your own purposes. Essentially, it works out to be just under 4% in that first year that you have to take out, which is about 3.9%. And it goes up every year.
It's just a suggestion, right? I mean, you don't really have to do it, do you?
Huh?
It's just a suggestion though, right? You don't really have to do it though, do you?
You have to do it because here's the thing. If you don't do it, you get penalized. They're going to take half of whatever you were supposed to take out in a penalty. So if you're supposed to take out $4,000 and you didn't take it out, they're going to charge you $2,000 as a penalty.
And you don't get to keep that. They just take it.
They're just taking that. That's it. It's a tax penalty. Thank you very much. Thanks for playing. And here's the thing, you may think, well, it's $4,000. The government's got millions and trillions they're trying to fight over and find. Are they really going to worry about my $4,000? Well, here's the thing. They're going to start looking at everything because, like I said, they just borrowed trillions of dollars for the stimulus package. All of these things add up, and they're going to start focusing in on them. You've heard some of it already with that, where they're starting to focus on, side hustles and the cryptocurrency's coming. This is another place where they're like, wait, we've been letting people slide. We're cracking down on this. All right, so this is sort of like a halfway point for us, because now we're going to sort of go to the positive side of all of this. This was sort of the negative side, but if you're not sure about that 401k thing, schedule a time to chat with us. We're happy to have a conversation, even if it's like just looking at what your allocation strategy is, seeing how that might be tweaked a little bit, maybe give you a little bit of sense of what might be a better fit for you or a model in terms of that. You can schedule a time. You go to www.calendly.com/Moody Street. Craig, do you have that link?
And just give me a second. I can do that.
Yeah, just when you get a chance, drop it in the chat box and the link will be there, but you can copy that and it's a calendar that'll pop up. You can schedule a time. We're happy to chat with anybody to see if we can help you out. All right. So what can you do as far as investing outside of the 401k, right? So what are the options? We just, hammered away and bashed away at the 401k, but what can you do as other options or other strategies? Well, the first one is a Roth. Now, a couple of things with this. A Roth is different from a traditional IRA or 401k in the fact that the money that goes in is after tax. So you don't get any tax deduction for this. The money will grow tax deferred, meaning you're never going to have to pay a tax bill on it. And then when you get later on in life and you pull the money out, it is tax free. So there's never going to be a tax bill due on this. And why is that important later on in life, Greg?
Because every dollar you're taking out is yours.
That's right. And you don't have to worry about it tripping up Social Security or Medicare or anything else because it's after-tax money. Now, there are retirement plans out there, 401ks, 403bs, that have a Roth component to it. So that might be a strategy that says, well, wait, I've got this available to me. I can do it if you haven't done it through your employer and taken the option to push some of the money over to the Roth side. Great. If you have that available, if you don't have it available, then you can look at opening a Roth on your own. If you're under 50, you can contribute $6,000. If you're over 50 or turning 50 this year, they give you the ability to put $7,000 in. So you can do your 401k thing, and this is sort of creating that additional bucket that's going to build up and not trigger any tax concerns later on in life.
You just don't get the deduction now.
No deduction now. So that's one of those tax questions about, hey, do I need it now, or how much do I need now versus what it's going to cost me later on in life.
The other fun part about it too is that you don't have the RMD on a Roth, right?
Very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. That is correct. There is no required minimum distributions for Roths, so money can sit there forever. This can be a legacy to the next generation because there is no taxable concern, so it can just go to a beneficiary without any concerns or any tax worry to go along with it. Unlike an IRA or 401k that you have to start taking it out by a certain age. Right now, that's 72.
And I also think you can take out what you contributed before 59 and a half without a penalty.
Well, now you're getting a little stringy on us here and a little wonky with the rules.
Well, you have to be 5 years. And
yeah. You got to be at least 55. You got to have the money. It's got to be in there for at least 5 years. And so, there's a little bit going along with that. Yes, you're still tying the money up because technically it's for retirement. But Craig is right. There is a way and a strategy that if you do absolutely need to tap into it, you possibly can do that without any penalty or any problem.
I think it's like a first-time home purchase, education, those things you can actually tap into the growth. But I think you can always pull out what you already put in because you already pay taxes on it.
Right. So long as you, yeah.
Okay. I do have one question though from the audience. Is it true that you can't have a Roth if you make over 200,000?
So there is a threshold to how much you can actually contribute to a Roth to a certain level. So yes, it's a sort of graduated scale that says at a certain amount for a single earner and then a certain amount for family, you can no longer contribute. They won't let you do it. They will let you. Go ahead.
The Roth IRA doesn't skirt around that?
No.
The 401k Roth doesn't skirt around that
So
limitation?
the Roth inside your 401k plan does.
Ah, okay.
Now, I believe the question was specifically about Roth IRA.
It was.
Okay.
I'm just asking 401k Roth, that still applies or not?
Right. You're trying to scare at the rules. We understand who you are. We get, you're always trying to find your way around the game board. We understand that. So
No, my accounting professor told me that tax avoidance is legal, tax evasion is illegal, and there's a very thin line between the two. But
but it is allowed. So that that's a good point though. If you are a high earner where you've been told you can't contribute to a Roth, that having the Roth 401k available does open that window up. It does allow that to happen. So now the other one is a health savings account, an HSA, right? And so one of the idea with the health savings account, if you have it available, this is, a high deductible health plan, but it comes with a component that allows you to put money away. And the idea with this is pre-tax. So whatever contributions you put into an HSA, that money is pre-tax. It grows tax deferred. And if you hold it until you get to retirement and you use the money that's been sitting in there to pay for, co-pays or, medical procedures or prescriptions or those type of things, all allowed under the HSA rules, it comes out tax-free. To basically get like a triple tax savings there. I get to put it in pre-tax. And when I take it out later and use it for those medical expenses, because let's face it, I'm old at that point, I need the medical expenses, that I'm not getting taxed on it. And that doesn't count against Social Security, doesn't count against Medicare. Same idea, just like a Roth. Now it's limiting. Go ahead.
Let's say, but HSAs are only available if you have a high deductible plan, correct?
Has to be a high deductible plan and it has to have the HSA component allowed. That's an employer thing, right? So the employer makes that decision whether or not they want to offer it. But, in today's world, more and more employers are trying to find ways to lower the healthcare premiums. And one of the ways to do that is to have a higher deductible plan. And if you're going to have a higher deductible plan, then it only makes sense to put the HSA component alongside it.
Absolutely. I do have another question from the audience. Can I pull my 403B and put it in a private investment?
So the 403, let's stay here. In order to move it from any type of qualified retirement account, and by that we mean 401k, 403B, whatever it may be, where you're not going to get taxed on it. And if you're under 59 and a half, get hit with the 10% penalty as well, you have to roll it to an IRA. Now, once it's inside an IRA is just an umbrella term. It just means, individual retirement account. An IRA can pretty much hold anything, within some limitations, but it can hold a lot. So can you roll it to an IRA and then purchase whatever you're thinking about purchasing with that money in the IRA? It's possible. I've had people try to do real estate. It's funky. I've helped people out try to do that. You can do it, but there's a lot of limitations and a lot of rules and a lot of hoops and bells and whistles to go through to do it. But yeah, that's how you would do it. You would take it, you would roll it to an IRA, and then once it's in the IRA, you're self-directing it. You're figuring out where, what you want to purchase inside there and hold.
You can't do that unless you've left service. So if you're still with the same company with your 403B that you're in, they won't allow you to do that. Some companies may allow you to do what we call an in-service withdrawal, but that's only after you've reached age 59 and a half. And not every company allows that. So yes, you can move a 403B to an IRA. And a lot of times people will do that when they do either separate from service or retire from the company. But you have to be separated or retired in order to be able to move that money somewhere else.
Correct. You can't do it while it's in there. That's a very good point, Greg. Thanks for bringing that up and saying that, is that it is referring to old plans. As a participant in a current employer plan, no, that's what we talked about. That's why one of the problems with the 401k or 403b is you're handcuffed, you're stuck there until you leave.
And it doesn't matter if they're matching or not matching, you're still stuck with the same problem.
You're still stuck in the same parameters and the same thing. And no, that is not a thing that you should leave your company. Don't take that from us. That's not what we're saying. So that, and sort of going right along with that is that you could just, instead of investing in a retirement account, you just open a brokerage account, right? This is similar to what we just talked about, which is in this case, you can pretty much, purchase just about anything. And we'll talk about some of that crazy stuff at the end. That's the last screen in terms of going through this. But inside a brokerage account, you can pretty much access just about anything. And they've got, commodities and sleeves and things that you can buy, just about anything that you can invest in. So it's another way of doing it. The whole thing with this is that's, again, after-tax money. Anything that you earn inside there, if it's held for more than a year, will get hit with capital gains. That, one of the things you're probably going to get right now, it's an interesting conversation, that if you have outside holdings, whether they're in mutual, specifically if they're in mutual funds, is you're probably getting a capital gain. Now, you're probably getting a tax statement that shows a capital gain for last year, which is just a blast to get when the market's down 10% and your portfolio is dropped. And now I'm getting this capital gain. What do you mean I got this capital gain? Well, it's because they did some, tax harvesting. They were trying to put stuff in place, and that took place last year. And now you're getting hit with a capital gain in a down market. Not a fun thing to have happen, but that's what happens with mutual funds. If you have a holding that goes beyond the 12-month window and it gets sold, you'll get hit with a capital gain, which right now is generally anywhere from 0 to 20%.
I say part of the positive there with a brokerage account is that the tax rate may be lower or more favorable than your current income tax rate, right? So that's why some people would choose to do brokerage as opposed to maybe waiting in 401k and paying their rate later.
Right. Yeah, you're stuck with ordinary income tax, whatever that is, whereas capital gains is generally always been less.
However, the other thing is capital gains is probably less of a political football as far as being able to change the tax rates later on. Right. So, because of the lowest they've ever been right now. Well, not the lowest they've ever been. They just made an adjustment.
Correct.
Right. And that adjustment was a 25% increase, right? Went from 15
went from 15 to 20. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything's possible if you're doing this for as a side investment for retirement. You just got to kind of look down that road too.
And then you have real estate, right? So, that's, you've always heard it, like real estate is one of those things. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody can participate in it. You do have real estate investment trusts. Those are REITs. Those are different types of holdings versus just going out and buying, a piece of property or some form of real estate. But it's an alternative. It's something different than saying I'm putting my money into the 401k. That's just sort of the mindset there.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. A lot of people, though, if you own your own home, you do have a real estate investment.
Correct.
Right? You're building equity. You're paying down the principal, and in this environment, the value of the property goes up year after year after year. The problem most people face when they go to retire is that they only have one home.
Right.
And they're going to live in one. So
they got to live in one. So it's exactly. So then you have these things, annuities, right? So annuities go all over the board, but when we're talking about annuities specifically for retirement, right? The idea is an annuity that's a payout stream of income. So understand Social Security is an annuity. You've been paying into it, and then at some point out into the future, the government's going to turn around and start sending you a check every month based on what you contributed into the system. That's an annuity. A corporate pension plan, same idea. It's an annuity. And So it's not getting caught up in all the words and everything else that goes along with it, but it's the idea of, if I don't have a pension, I'm now creating my own personal pension that I am able to do, and I can know that every month that check's coming in. So that's the whole concept with annuities get very deep and they're very complicated, and there's a lot that goes on with them. But if you look at them at their base core, like I said, the other one is the lottery, right? So, if that's the thing. If you won the lottery, that's an annuity payout, right? When they say to you, we're going to pay you out for 20 years, basically, in terms of going through it, that's how an annuity works. Never heard anybody say if they won the lottery that, no, I don't want that. That's a terrible thing. Take it away. Not for me.
Well, you may take the lump sum option.
The lump sum option, though, that's the payout, right? So it's based on, that's what the contribution was in. It's a lesser amount than what you get paid out over time.
Correct. That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's about a 20% difference of what you would get paid out. The big chunk ones, I don't know what they call it. What is the biggest one? What is that?
Powerball,
Powerball, right? Powerball, it's a 30-year payout.
Well, that's all right, though. The check coming.
Right. You got a check coming every year. There you go. See? And then you have cash value life insurance, right? So this is life insurance. The idea is life insurance. We get it. Life insurance is, really is about, hey, I'm leaving for the next generation or my spouse or people that I care about. But there is life insurance that builds money up inside it. And that money that's inside there is able to be used, Craig, for just about anything you want, right?
Depending on the life insurance policy, that's correct. Yep. So the nice thing about having cash value in a life insurance policy is it's one of the most underrated, I won't call it an investment vehicle because it's not supposed to be an investment vehicle, but it is, as far as being able to put money in, have it grow tax deferred, have access to cash at any age, as long as the cash is available in the policy, and in certain circumstances, be able to take out your earnings tax free. So,
okay.
and then passing, substantial money to your heirs, and there's lots and lots of other benefits that would be a whole nother topic of discussion.
Right, it's a whole nother conversation, but just it's there. It's another alternative. And like Craig said, the reason we bring it up is because you have that tax deferral, and then the opportunity possibly in retirement to take the money out and have it not count against, be tax-free. So again, it doesn't trigger Social Security, doesn't trigger Medicare, doesn't do any of that stuff. That's what we're always talking about, because for Craig and I, it's always about thinking about the different strategies about being efficient. So this last one is not efficient, right? So this is where we're getting crazy now, right? So, crypto, anybody? So yes, cryptocurrency, speculative investments, like this stuff. Yeah, you could do this and there's nothing wrong with it. Just know that any type, and the definition as far as speculation is that there's no likelihood of a return. So if you're okay just putting the money in and knowing that it could burn and be gone, that's fine if you're willing to take that risk. We don't ever recommend doing speculation with anything more than, say, at max 5, maybe 10% of your total overall portfolio. But it's there. And cryptocurrency right now is sort of the one that's in the fore, and God bless. I don't know how many people are doing commercials for all of the cryptocurrencies and the trading platforms that are out there. The Super Bowl had to have like half a dozen of them.
I don't think you should be able to do a commercial for it unless they can pass a test.
Yeah.
Can you tell
How
me
much it is, right?
How do you mine coins? I want to know, how do you mine coins? Right? Yeah. What's
Tell us how you do that, and then we'll let you be the spokesperson.
Absolutely.
So, but I mean, understand that what we're saying is it is an option. It is something that's out there that you could do instead of it, and you don't really have any more control than you do. It's just, you've got to be able to be willing to take the risk for that type of vehicle. All right. So in conclusion, we're not saying don't participate in the corporate retirement plan that's being offered to you. We just say have a little bit of thought when you're doing it. Certainly if there is a match, maxing to the match. That's what Craig and I usually talk to everybody about. Let's say the employer is matching up to 5%. Well, If you can get to 5%, then do that. If you're looking to do more than the 5%, then let's have a conversation about, there are some of those alternatives that might be better. Like, is there an HSA? Let's fund that. Do you have a Roth? Let's get that set up. And then once those are funded, now if I want to come back and do the 401k, okay, I'll come back and do the 401k, right, Craig? Because that's the whole idea of setting up those different buckets.
Well, I think, like you said, especially if you're going to get a match, it's not a bad thing to have a 401k for lots of different reasons. One, like you already touched on, you set it and forget it, right? It comes out of your paycheck, it goes in, it gets built up, and it's one of the only ways most people will actually start a retirement account is because it's offered through their work.
Right.
The only thing is, once again, and it's also a good piece of the puzzle when putting the retirement game together, right? You want to have some assets in a 401k. The issue is that most people stop there and they don't look at anything else as far as planning for retirement. And there's lots of other tools that you need to have in your bucket to make it as efficient as possible. And like I said, more than we can get into in one conversation today, the one thing to remember is a 401k is a good deal, but it's not the only deal and it's not the end all and be all. I mean, I've seen people put all their funds and retirement funds in a 401k, then they're crying because every time they have to take any money out, they've got to give some to the government. So they don't have as much.
The government sits there with their hand out and says, pay me a part of it. And, you know, like I said, you are at the whim of what happens with the tax code.
Absolutely. And then on the other side of it, like you already mentioned, is RMDs. You know, it's nothing worse than being forced to take out money that you may not need, right? And paying tax on it. And then you've got to stuff it somewhere. So that happens too. And if you look at some of the formulas we look at, you know, they're trying to make you take that money out faster than is sustainable over your lifetime. So they could force you to run out of money if you don't put some of that away, if that's the only asset you have for retirement. So just want to make sure it's a great tool, but it doesn't do the whole job, and you got to make sure you're looking at the whole picture.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, for us, it's all about trying to help everybody get started, answer some of those questions. You know, one of the things we offer is the opportunity to have a conversation with us, you know, just a chat, just to go over what's a concern for you, what's driving some of your thoughts and what you're doing. And, you know, as Craig likes to say, is trying to find out that why you're doing something, or maybe why you've had some of that, whether it's hesitation or problems that have come up in terms of it. If you're interested, you can drop yes into the chat box. Craig, you've dropped your scheduler in. So, you know, just know we're here and available if you ever want to have a conversation about that. This is Craig and I in our more formal attire. Those are our contact informations. Yes, those are TB12 jerseys. We wear them proudly. He's retired, so we kept them even though we left, and now he's retired. But you know, who knows what's going to happen at this point? I keep hearing it, trading quarterbacks left, right, and sideways in the NFL right now. So who knows where TB12 might go? At some point, we'll probably have to get Mac Jones jerseys, but right now we're still comfortable in our TB12s. I don't know if we have the evaluation form. Do you have an evaluation form? Did I give that to you?
I don't have that. I can look. Hang on. Give me 1 second. I'm sure I have something somewhere.
Might have been the same as last week.
Okay. No.
See, that's us being very prepared. That's okay. We're
I got it.
So we just know we do these all the time. We do them for Think with a Drink. We do them at other organizations.
In the box.
We value the input and feedback we get from everybody. So if you just take a minute, you can click on the link. It doesn't take you like 2 minutes just to go through and just fill it out. But we do like to know, and if you do have any thoughts or anything that's sort of rolling around in your mind, or say, gee, I'd really like to learn about this, drop it in. We're happy to like try to come up with something. We're always looking for new topics and ideas from any of our participants.
We even talked about the cost of pets on one of ours, so we'll talk about anything. We don't care.
We will talk about anything. This is an old slide. I didn't update this, so you can ignore that, because next week we're doing, it's St. Patrick's Day. We're already getting into the fest mode here. Next week is Blarney, which is financial myths, basically, and other falsehoods that go along with investing and investing strategies. So that's on the 17th. And then on the 24th is the Panini generation, I believe. We're going to do that, which is, hey, we're trying to take care of the parents and kids at the same time. I'm a full-blooded Italian, so it's instead of the sandwich, it's a panini getting squeezed. But if you have questions, Craig, any questions in the chat box for us?
Not in chat box, I have one. Are there any green beers I should be looking for next week?
Yeah, it's what it's known as food color dye number 7, basically. And you just drop it in there and you've got green beer.
Okay, I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. It's green
But
beer.
no questions in the chat box. We're good.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to say I'm going to try to stop the recording. I lost the screen for some reason. There it is. I'm going to stop the recording and say,